All right, welcome into an emergency crossover episode of Patriots Beat Patriots Daily. Alex, Barth, Taylor, Kyles, Brian Hines with you. Mike Kadlick will be joining shortly as we're all kind of in scramble mode here because how about some breaking news on a Tuesday night? Just about to, throw on the TV, unwind for the night. And I'm like, should check my phone one more time before I do. And would you look at that? Stefon Diggs is a New England Patriot. According to Adam Schefter, it is we're talking about a 1-year prove-it deal, a 3-year deal. Now get ready because there's two very different numbers here. It's a 3-year, $69 million contract with $26 million guaranteed. So a wide spread on the money. We'll get to that, but let's just go instant reaction, Taylor. Stefon Diggs is a Patriot. What was your first thought?
It's exciting because this is someone who's had success in the league and the exact kind of profile that we said this receiver room needed. You can add your Matt Collins, but he's kind of redundant with a Kendrick Bourne where he does bring something in terms of leadership, obviously his own style, but he hasn't done enough in the league for these young guys to be like, what do I do to not just stick around in the league for a long time, but also have a high level of success and do it the right way. So there's that element of it. You also have, Matt Collins and Stefon Diggs, the Josh Allen connection. One, now you got some intel on Buffalo. That's pretty cool. But also, these are guys who know how to uncover when the play breaks down. They're reliable. Obviously, much more so Stefon Diggs. We don't know when he's going to be on the field exactly, but it's just some consistency and reliability that Drake Maye desperately lacked last season. And I want to make sure that we don't think that this is Stefon Diggs, the ex-man-to-man beater that he used to be. He's probably going to be more of a guy who can find the soft spots and zones and, just get to space. But that's still more than what they had last year on a consistent basis. So it's a nice stabilizing presence in that room. Again, not going to have him early on, but at least you have an experienced, accomplished guy, and it pushes wide receiver down just a little bit so you don't maybe necessarily have to go there with the first pick.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, he's 31 and he's coming off an ACL tear, right? So there's some risks there, but this is a risk they needed to take because the ceiling is higher than anything they have on the current roster. And we hear they want to go best player available in the draft and not draft for needs. They needed a wide receiver. And now if you have Stefon Diggs, that maybe opens you up a little bit elsewhere to go in the draft. So it was a risk they needed to take with the contract. I loved that they went beyond just 1 year because he is coming off that injury. You sign him to 1 year, maybe you get 10 games and he looks good, then he's probably just going to leave, right? So you keep him around for probably with the guaranteed money. It probably looks like a 2-year deal. Then you can get out of it after that 3rd year. So you keep him around to let him not only get healthy going into that 2nd year, but build some chemistry with Drake Maye. So I love that they got him for multiple years. And now we just hope that knee progresses pretty well there.
Yeah, you guys hit on a lot of the points, Brian. You said that they needed to take the risk. I would say this is more than worth the risk because, look, he's 31 years old and he's coming off a torn ACL. There's obviously significant questions. This isn't, the reaction to this is great isn't relative to the start of the offseason. There's better moves they could have made. But for where things are right now, and I would even say going back a week or two, we had talked about this on Patriots Beat, Brian. I was kind of floating the idea of being in more on Diggs than Cooper Kupp because at this point you're sort of just chasing, and the upside for Diggs is tremendous. This is a guy that I think as much respect as he's gotten, I think has been slept on a bit in the NFL. In the last few years, obviously tremendous in Buffalo. His role changed a little bit in Houston last year, more of a Robin, less of a Batman. He was playing more in the slot, but he was still off to a very good start before he got hurt. Look, he could come out and the knee's not there. And if so, it seems like the Patriots have relatively taken care of themselves to get out of this deal with the guaranteed money compared to the overall money. But let's say he can be 85% of the player he was last year in Houston. That's the best receiver the Patriots have had since Julian Edelman. And I frankly don't think it's close. That's a guy that can truly be trusted.
Jacoby Myers.
All right, Jacoby, well, about on par with that. That's fair. That's fair call out, Taylor. But we're talking about, has anybody been in the stratosphere of those two?
No.
Since Myers left? Right. So this is the guy that can truly be a reliable target, a trusted target for Drake Maye, a guy he can stretch the field with. A guy he can throw the ball down the field to, you hope, again, if he's healthy. on paper, this is the exact kind of receiver the Patriots needed. Whether it was T. Higgins, whether it was DK Metcalf, he can be that kind of player. The question is, will he still be after the ACL tear? And that's why it's not ideal to the start of the offseason. But for where they're at right now, the way it looks like the deal is structured, it getting to this point, all things considered, I would say they did pretty well. So let's talk about this contract, because I audibly said, wow, when I saw it, mostly to the 3 years. I thought maybe they'd throw a second dummy year on there. I had kind of floated structuring it, obviously different player, different money wise, but structuring it like they structured Darrelle Revis's contract back in 2014. My guess, and I haven't seen the details yet. I looked before we came on here, so feel free to correct me if anything else is out there. My guess is it's going to be something like 18 to 20 million guaranteed in the, 16 to 18 guaranteed in the first year. The rest of it guaranteed in the next year. That third year is essentially a dummy year to spread out the hit. And don't worry about that $69 million number. I would say, like, if you're a Patriots fan, you're fixated on that, you're looking at the wrong thing.
Patriots fans should not worry about money right now. Well,
beyond that, just the way this is structured, if Diggs gets close to earning that $69 million,
well worth it.
Right. I'm going to guess
well
this is one of those. You see, there's these deals sometimes that it's like $1 million each year for like winning the Super Bowl, right? Those are the kind of bonuses you might be talking about. So if he gets near that $69 million number, this is going to look like an absolutely brilliant move from Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, and Ryan Cowden.
It's also a bigger deal. I didn't remember what Cooper Kupp got. He got 3 years, $45 million. So maybe that's why Diggs kind of waited out, wanted to see what the market looked like.
How much of that was guaranteed?
Let's see. For Cooper Kupp,
I bet the guaranteed is more, but the total is less.
The AAV is $1 million more than Chris Godwin. Now that's that dummy kind of $69 million figure.
I don't know the guaranteed on Cooper Kupp yet.
Okay, so it'll be interesting. I would bet that the guaranteed is higher on Cooper Kupp because not coming off a torn ACL, and that's kind of how those things work, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. You guys have any other thoughts on the contract?
Not really. I'm not a contract guy.
I just like that, again, excuse me, that they did multiple years. Because if it was 1 year, he could get out on the field in October, looks good.
Yeah.
And then he's probably just going to reset his market and walk. So you get him in the building, that's still the risk. Like we'll see how the knee looks and how he looks on the field. But assuming it goes well, you're keeping him in the building, you're keeping him with Drake Maye, and you're getting to work with him there going forward.
And I had this thought too. Sorry, Taylor, go ahead, and then I'll throw this in.
No, you're good.
So I had this thought too, and I know nobody probably wants to hear this, but this was just kind of in the line of thinking, right? Multi-year deal, because I heard some people say, well, if he's good, even with that $69 million maximum, like, what if he realizes, oh, I'm still Stefon Diggs, I should be making more than this, and you get to the offseason and he doesn't want to play for the whatever it is, like $10 million probably guaranteed next year.
I don't really think he's that kind of guy, though.
I don't think he is either, but like hypothetically, could you flip him like the Raiders flipped Devontae Adams? Like the point is you have that control. You're not going to, if he works, he's either here or you're going to get something significant for him. So I thought it would just be 2 years. I thought it would be year one, we're going to see how it goes. And then year two will be all right, if it works, we'll pick it up. If not, we'll move on. If it doesn't work out, you're probably eating some money next year, but they're in position to do that. The third year surprised me a little bit, but like I can see if it's structured the way I think it's structured, which is the way a lot of these deals are, the third year makes plenty of space, plenty of sense.
And now if you add that X, like the talented guy who maybe had some verticality, but really just fits the mold more so than what they have right now. Like, I don't think Diggs is that guy. I don't think you want him in those one-on-one situations. I think he's relying more on savvy right now. But it does give you that nearly surefire depth piece where with all these young guys, like now if Jalen Polk does break out and becomes the player you were expecting, now you have him and Demario Douglas, two guys that can uncover against man coverage, maybe not against the best guys. That's where you rely on hopefully some younger talent. But then you have Diggs who can, exploit man coverage if you scheme him open. He can kill zone. Now this is a group that you feel a lot more confident in than when it was like Matt Collins, you're like, all right, sure, fine. But Kendrick Bourne, you're hoping he gets back to the kind of place he was with Josh McDaniels, but you weren't really sure about it. I just like that now I feel like you can breathe easier. Is this a great receiving core? No. But I think it's basically what Josh Allen had last year, where it's just like reliable guys you can throw to and they're going to move the chains, even if they don't give you great explosiveness. So again, they still need to address it in the draft, but I do like at least the stability this brings and how it affects the rest of the depth chart.
It'll be interesting just from a roster perspective who this affects, because this is 7 wide receivers now that you could argue for playing time, right? Diggs,
Right.
Hollins, Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, Polk, Booty, Javon Baker. If they add one in the draft, now you're at 8, and we assume Diggs, we were talking before, he's probably going to start the year on the PUP list, so maybe he misses the first month of the season, so that's a roster spot, but still, you're at 7 or 8 receivers, right? So who's going to go? Is there going to be a trade? You know, Kendrick Bourne is probably kind of one of the obvious ones you can get out of that contract. So that will be interesting as well, just the fallout from that room, because they just have so many bodies right now there.
So right now you have 7 guys. Pop and Mac Hollins are going to make it. I feel comfortable in saying that. Those are probably the 2 guys can say with real conviction will be on the team. Polk as a second-round pick probably, but we'll kind of throw him on that bubble for now. So that's right now you have 5 guys battling for 3 to 4 spots. And then if you draft somebody now, like you said, Brian, you pointed out, assuming Diggs opens on PUP, which we can get to the timeline in a second, but assuming Diggs opens on PUP, we may be doing that same thing we did last year where Kendrick Bourne opened on PUP and it was competitive and all right, they're going to keep everybody. And then over that first month, guys will battle it out or somebody will get hurt and you'll go from there. So,
and it's similar to the situation they have at linebacker right now, where there's a ton of bodies, a lot of guys who can play, but you're also like, elephant in the room, someone's probably getting moved before camp even starts. It obviously, yes, camp competition, it's good. And you'd like, at least, especially because Diggs is probably not going to start the season, that there's going to be some level of that. But you look at like Kendrick Bourne, even Kayshon Boutte, just as like one of the younger guys who was good last season, but you're looking at upside. He doesn't have as much as some of the other people on the roster. So if you're making the hard decisions, Pop, Jalen Polk, Stefon Diggs when he gets back, Mac Hollins, and then someone's probably fighting for that 5th spot.
And they will have time. This is a double-edged sword because so Diggs tore his ACL Halloween week last year. I don't remember the exact date, but it was the same like week on the calendar that Kendrick Bourne did 2 years ago. So if we use that timeline, all right, so Kendrick Bourne missed, I think, 11 months, right? He came back as the end of September, beginning of October, something like that. So if you use that timeline, it's about the same time, and that was considered relatively quick. Even if Diggs is ahead of schedule by a month, he's back for the very end of training camp. At that point, are you going to cram him onto the roster week 1 without a ramp up? Or are you going to let him use those 4 weeks? And Kendrick Bourne had talked about, even though he maybe could have been ready for week 1, how important those 4 weeks were to get himself back in football shape and do some on-field work. Maybe you do that with Diggs. So you will have some flexibility there. And where it's a double-edged sword is they're going to have, Polk, Baker, Boutte. They draft somebody like you're going to have young guys you want getting reps, and there's going to be more reps available in camp. The flip side of it is Diggs doesn't get to work with Drake Maye, which is obviously you'd like to get those 2 together as soon as possible, but you hope he keeps himself around the building in the area, and is kind of working with those guys off the field as much as he can, so he can hit the ground running once he's ready. I want to get in to Stefon Diggs off the field and that impact. Taylor, I know you're big on that, but first we do have to hear from our friends at Prize Picks. So let's do that, and then Diggs, we'll get into some more stuff about Stefon Diggs. Am I playing it?
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They now offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And the second half of the basketball season is officially here, and the race to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks. So don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. You think LeBron James will get more than 24 points? You think Giannis will get more than 35? cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. All you got to do is sign up on the PrizePicks app today, download the app, and use that code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
Play his voice and he appears.
I know
Yeah,
that
there we go.
voice.
Mike Kadlick is now joining us after writing for SI. So, Mike, before we were going to get into some of the Diggs off-field stuff, but we'll just grab your reaction, your big picture reaction first, real quick.
Yeah, it's good stuff at the end of the day. Obviously, I think everybody should be excited, if not relatively excited for the move, bringing in, what many consider to be a true number one wide receiver. Now, there's some caveats there. He's 31, turning 32 in November. We know the injury. But before that, 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I know we'll get into some of the off-field stuff, like you said, so I won't go too far into that. But it's interesting because it's, the 3-year deal with $69 million, $26 million guaranteed. So it's a lot of dough, right? And it's, Taylor, we talked about comparing Diggs to Cooper Kupp. Like, he only got 3 for 45, and we both said we'd probably rather Cooper Kupp on that number. So we'll see what happens when the terms come out, right? The $26 million guaranteed is the real one here. We have to know what happens with injury guarantees as well and what that really means. So it's hard to fully react until you know the true numbers or the true meaning behind those numbers. But at the end of the day, they actually pulled the trigger on a wide receiver. So I think that's promising. And we'll see what happens after that. But as of right now, it's hard to not be happy because they desperately needed help in the room, and they did it.
And the fans that are worried about it, the reputation that Diggs has is a locker room cancer and a bad teammate. I've said I think that this is overblown. I've said for a while I believe that's overblown. Is he the perfect teammate? No, probably not. But again, I think Patriots fans were just waiting for Larry Fitzgerald to walk through the door, and that's not happening. Like, you kind of have to have an ego to play that position in the league. I think Diggs is certainly within reason. He was a captain in Buffalo for 3 years. He was a captain in his first year in Houston last year under DeMeco Ryans, which I think is significant. He's worn out his welcome at times in places, but one that's kind of been down the road, which it's a 3-year deal that is probably in all reality a 2-year deal at most. And I'm not worried about him being worried about targets, because if he is healthy, he should get, well, I guess not 100 targets because he won't play 17 games, but he should be on 100 target pace this year if he's healthy, and then again next year. So
you guys don't have to go fully into it because I know we just did it for everyone.
Yeah.
But quickly, catch me up. What are everybody else's initial reactions? Are we happy, sad? At least the 3 of you on here.
We're all in on it. We admit we kind of what you said. Like, there's caveats to it, but
mainly the cash, or are we worried about the injury?
The injury and the age. None of us are really worried about the money because, again, it's that $26 million guaranteed, and that should make it easier to maybe move away if things do go downhill. But Taylor, I forget if it was when we first started the show or just off the air. Like, this is also a guy that is a football junkie and is a excellent when it comes to the technique and the teachables. Yes, he maybe has a little bit of an abrasive personality, but maybe this room could use somebody pushing them a little bit. And I think from a technical standpoint, he has a chance to be a great teacher, not just because he's good, but also I think stylistically he's similar. Like, where he's great is where some of these young players really need to improve.
So an update here from Adam Schefter. Schefter just tweets moments ago, Patriots wide receiver Stefon Diggs, who's coming off a torn ACL, is on track to return for week 1 of the upcoming season.
Wow.
It was another reason why the Patriots felt comfortable giving Diggs the 3-year, $69 million deal that GM Elliott Wolf and Diggs' agent negotiated.
So
that changes things a little bit.
I'll say this.
We thought Kendrick Bourne was going to be back week 1. They said that as well, so we'll see what happens. But
I'll say this too. Like, being ready for week 1 doesn't mean you're going to play week 1. And we talked about this before, Mike, that Bourne talked about how important those 4 weeks were that he was on IR to get back in football shape. So.
He even said the first 4 weeks Bourne when he got back, like his first game back, he played, I think it was 20 snaps.
He didn't play a lot.
He what?
He ramped up. You're right.
Yeah, he added about 10 snaps per every week. He's like, it's going to take me a month to get fully back into football shape. So that's like a month since he got back on the field even.
I also don't think it's going to be a huge, as long as he like can move, obviously, and feels like comfortable and isn't in his head. His role last year, again, he was beating zone. Like, in the way that he wins at the top of routes, it's not necessarily being super explosive. It's just like get in the guy's area, make him uncomfortable with a couple moves. Now, obviously, there's some drop off because he's not going to be as explosive early on, but I still think he can be a productive player for them, again, in a specific role, as long as he's able to be out there on the field. Like, I don't think there's going to be this level of, with Kendrick Bourne, I think there was a little bit of like he was in his head and all that. And actually, no, he's never, it's going to be his first time working with Drake. So something just fell in my house. I don't know.
Hey, it was his first time working with Josh Allen in one season, and he made it out pretty well. It was his first time working with CJ Stroud last season, and he was fine until he tore his ACL. I know it takes some time, and the injury doesn't help, but it's hard not to be excited about this. It really is, especially with the potential outlook on the injury.
So let's go back to what we were talking about there before we got that update from Schefter. Taylor, where are you at with him in the locker room? And are you worried about maybe his personality? Do you think his personality can help? And do you think we've talked about how, why am I blanking on his name? The wide receivers coach.
Todd Downing.
Todd Downing.
Right. We've talked about how Todd Downing knows how to install an offense and put together an offense, but he's never hands-on coached wide receivers before. Can Diggs almost help? Can Diggs help with that and be more of a technical coach for some of these younger guys in addition to what he brings on the field?
Yeah, I think this is going to be like the Morgan Moses signing basically for the wide receiver room. Like maybe can translate a little bit, can talk to those guys and really show them again, this is how you do it at a high level. Like Morgan Moses isn't the same level as Diggs, but having worked with Trent Williams, just a little bit of extra credibility added onto there. So for the locker room, I think this is really, really perfect. Like Drake Maye, we know Drake's a football junkie. He wants to get better. He's constantly improving. That's the kind of quarterback I think Stefon's going to want to work with, where he's going to want to constantly be on the same page and, be able to help the relationship flourish as efficiently as possible. I think Drake's going to be on the same page. And then you've also got receivers in that room who don't have the most speed, but when they were at their best in college, went in similar ways to Stefon Diggs. So I think that can be a guy where they look at and be like, hell yeah, I would love to be anything close to Stefon Diggs, where yeah, maybe I'm not the most crazy athletic guy on the field, but I'm a dog at the end of the day, and showing them practice habits, how to take care of themselves, everything that Morgan Moses preached. And I feel like the only reason in his past that his personality has really been a problem is when he wanted targets. I think Albert Breer touched on that was really the issue in Buffalo his last year there, but he's going to be like 32 years old. I don't think he's really going to be banging the door down for targets if there's clearly a younger guy who needs to develop as well. Like, he has enough awareness to know that, like, if Jalen Polk is on a heater, I'm not going to sit here and pout because I'm not getting targets. So I really don't see the downside to this from a personality standpoint. I really only see this being positive for them, especially with a guy like Vrabel who knows how to deal with more, say, mercurial personalities.
Brian?
And I just go back, Taylor, you mentioned Drake. Like, go back last year, listen to CJ Stroud talk about Stefon Diggs multiple times, just how much he loved having him around, how much he's helped him grow as a quarterback. And that was CJ Stroud year 2. Here comes Drake Maye in year 2. He's similar style to Josh Allen, right? So Diggs has played with this kind of quarterback before. So I think he's going to do wonders for Drake Maye as well, off the field as obviously on the field. And then, yeah, there is some familiarity there. We mentioned Todd Downing, like, Josh McDaniel's brother, Ben, worked with Stefon Diggs. He was their wide receivers coach in Houston. So you imagine there was some conversation there, screening background. They held him in for a visit, so they got to know him a little bit better there. So I think they're definitely comfortable with the personality, and I think he will ultimately help the whole offense in that room.
And as it relates to Drake Maye, you guys did a good job on touching on the receivers. As it relates to Drake Maye, and I know we disagree on this to an extent, but Josh Allen's turnaround lines up with when Stefon Diggs got to Buffalo. And maybe I give Diggs more credit for that than other people, but you can't say that that's an entire coincidence, that Diggs had nothing to do with that. I actually went back and found an old tweet of mine from that year that said Stefon Diggs is the best thing that's ever happened to Josh Allen. Again, Diggs, it was 5 years ago. Diggs maybe isn't the player he was then, but like, he's been through this. He's seen a quarterback through this. So I want him basically walking through the Josh Allen plan with Drake Maye, stylistically similar, all of that. The comparisons are not new. I think that there's real synergy there. We'll see what happens with the receivers. I'm not worried about it there. I maybe this is just me. I'm more optimistic for what this signing means for Drake Maye, development-wise, not just in-games, development-wise, than what it maybe means for the rest of the receivers.
I would agree with that. I mean, we've seen this happen since it really was like one of my buddies who was not sold on it being Diggs here for the Patriots said when people said Drake Maye needs a Stefon Diggs, they didn't literally mean Stefon Diggs, but it's like Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, and Tua Tagovailoa is Tyreek Hill, and I guess CJ Stroud, Stefon Diggs sort of last year. But there's been multiple
Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown.
Exactly. There's been examples of this where you kind of need a guy to get someone who can come in the room and be the number one target, and it kind of just flows out through the rest of the room. So I think again, if all goes according to plan, which the 3-year, $69 million deal tells me that the Patriots are confident this is gonna work out well. And I know that that's top end number, and maybe I'm looking too much into the contract because of what I guess like a Cooper Kupp went for, but even still, I'm okay with it because they're comfortable with it. Because the reports said a couple weeks ago that they weren't too comfortable bringing in a diva number one wide receiver because of how that could shake out not only the wide receiver room, but for the rest of the roster. So clearly they don't see Stefon Diggs as that, and we can only trust them until we can't. And so I think it's going to be great for Drake Maye in the long run.
Also, Mike, really quick, I looked it up to see if Schefter had said anything about Bourne and like his timeline. Bourne said that his goal was to come back for the first week. I don't know if anybody reported that was the case. And again,
I remember he told Andrew Callahan in like a podcast.
No, I think it was Mayo that said it.
Oh.
No.
I think Mayo had said like something. I don't remember exactly. I might be wrong, but I remember there being a quote from Mayo about like everybody that was on PUP had a chance to be ready for week 1 at the beginning of camp.
Okay.
Well, okay, that's that. Not surprising. But again, just kind of to add a little bit more potential optimism to this, that like the fact that Schefter is saying, and again, he is repeating what agents tell him. We do not know for a fact that's going to be true, but at least maybe he can actually be out there and participate a little bit and get some rapport with Drake Maye. So, that's exciting that it won't take quite as long as we thought before.
I have my article right here. I'm trying to find the quote. I don't have the exact quote in it, but it was everybody but Cole. I think I remember him saying everybody but Cole Strange was.
Oh, you know what? That sounds right because I was thinking that there was no way it was Strange too, but okay.
Right. It was because it was like Taki was on there, and I think that another offensive lineman on there, and yeah. So all right, we got to hear from our friends at Game Time, and then I have one more point I want to get to here.
I'm doing this, right? Game Time?
Go for it, Brian.
All right. Well, we all love going to games. We get to go to Gillette now to see Stefon Diggs play in the fall. That will be fun. We'll definitely use Game Time to get our tickets for that. And they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see all your favorite teams play live even easier because they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Both the Celtics and the Bruins are out on the West Coast right now, so it's quiet up at TD Garden, but they will be back soon. The Bruins will host the Washington Capitals. Taylor, let's test your hockey knowledge here. Who's the all-time goal leader in the NHL?
Wayne Gretzky,
but
Wow.
Alex Ovechkin is coming for him. He's 7 goals away, so he needs to have an unreal next couple games because April 1st, Alex Ovechkin is in the Garden, maybe with the chance to make history. Right now, cheapest get in, $92 on the Game Time app, or you can go down right behind the goal that Ovechkin shoots twice on with a super deal. 4 rows up, $220. Great seats, great deal. Maybe you can see some history again there. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and again, Game Time Picks, which makes it even easier to save more on your sports or any other events you are looking for. Comedy, theater, it's getting nicer out. Concert season is right around the corner. So take the guesswork out of buying all those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game Time.
All right.
Yeah.
And now the big question, this is probably our fans, the people who live in the weeds, this is where their heads are at. Taylor, does this change how you view the 4th pick in the top of the draft for the Patriots?
Not really, because before I was team take Travis Hunter if he's there. If it's Abdul Carter, to be totally honest, I would be more open to entertaining trades. I think Travis Hunter, if someone blows you away, then you do it. But it's Armand Membu for me. If you don't get one of the, blue chip talents, and I think you run to the podium and take him, because I know it's him and Will Campbell. Oh, what if he can't switch sides? One, I've now watched like 5 games of Armand Membu. I've charted them. I've cut them up. When watching, I actually watched him first and then watched Will Campbell. Will Campbell's tape was much more jarring. And I've watched Will Campbell like 3 separate times, because Membu, you don't see the quick losses or anything. Like, he's a very fluid and balanced pass protector without any glaring flaws. Gets beat by speed to power, but I think that's more of a technique thing. And with Campbell, like, they're against the guys that are more athletic, like the Texas A&M, South Carolina is like, they're smoking him like 2 or 3 times a game. But if you get Membu in this lineup with obviously Stefon Diggs, whenever he ends up coming back, the wide receiver core, you feel all right. Hopefully they take somebody else with their 2nd or 3rd pick. But if they can get their left tackle situation sorted out, I think this is an offense where you're like, yeah, okay, I think they can not bad enough for their defense to help them maybe get into a wild card spot.
Brian?
He took the words right out of my mouth. Nothing changing. If Carter or Hunter are there, that's still the pick. And as I've kind of been on for like the last week or so, Membu would be my choice at 4. If no one else is, if those 2 guys are gone, if no one's calling, if the phone lines are quiet, like I'm going Membu. I like him more than Campbell. I'm willing to try and flip him over with that athletic profile, everything that Taylor just said about him. So nothing that this move really did. Maybe on date, like if you go that route on day 2, maybe you're looking more at a tight end instead of a receiver in that area, but nothing at the top of the draft that this signing really changed for me.
Mike?
So here's my my Brian Widhorse fingers. Why did they do that type of thing going on in my head? Now, this came 20 minutes to a half hour after the Russell Wilson deal in New York.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, that the Patriots front office knows that they're not taking Shedeur Sanders. And now Adam Schefter said that it wouldn't change their minds, but maybe the Patriots realized that Travis Hunter wasn't going to fall to them anymore and that they had to go get their wide receiver now. So what is this?
Gross.
Oh, Russ and yeah, it's ugly. DeVito, him, and Jameis.
All right, Jameis, Russ, and Shedeur is a quarterback room. Like,
it's funny. It's funny is the word for it. Now
they're trying to see if Brian Dable will just quit.
Hey, DeVito's there too. So there's 4 guys.
Well, Brian will be the only one who gets this. Is Brian Daboll trying to pull a Jim Montgomery and just get himself fired so he can get to his next job already?
Probably.
I was when I saw the notification, I was just like, does Daboll have any input in these moves? Like, what is going on?
I hope so. He's coaching for his job. I'll say this about the draft.
Well, kidding aside about the trickle down effect, I don't think that Russ and Jameis going there actually changed the Patriots' moves, but Diggs comes here. I still think you need help at wide receiver because this isn't a long-term solution. So if Travis Hunter's there, you take him. I don't think it should change anything now. And even if you don't take a Membu or don't take a Campbell and you do trade back, I would still have Ted McMillan on your board and on the table. That doesn't change that either. I think that that's still a need. So you have to do what's best for the team. You have to do what's best for, obviously you have to do what's best for the team. But as far as like best player available, that should still be your track at that point.
If they can get Hunter and it's Diggs is the undersized X, I guess, essentially. Hunter is the Z and Pop in the slot, but Diggs doing more of that middle of the field stuff. That's a pretty good group. And then you probably have like Booty and Polk and maybe Bourne as like depth rotating in as that 4th guy there. That's a pretty good group. I will say I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow at the LSU Pro Day. Will Campbell's arms will be measured again. We'll see if we get the number. But some of the numbers coming, some of the numbers coming out of these other Pro Days, I think the Combine got it wrong. I really think the NFL, not Campbell, everybody. Okay. I think the Combine got everybody wrong, and that's wrong. Like it could cost these kids a lot of money. So I'll be interesting to see as we keep getting them because the numbers from the Pro Days don't line up. The numbers from the Senior Bowl don't line up. So
did you hear about Restrepo?
Well, that's a stopwatch. That is, yeah, he ran.
No,
a
did
4.81.
he hurt himself?
You see what he said?
Oh yeah. Why do
the
these
hammy?
guys keep doing this? Just don't run. Like Gunnar Helm, Kayshawn Booty, just don't run. Just don't run. But
it also, like, that didn't make sense, bro. He does not look like
no, he's not
4.8 on tape. I don't know why people ran with it. Like everybody ran with the Matthew Golden thing, where it's like, all right, let's just take a breath. No one believes this, right?
Yeah, look, it maybe knocks him down a little bit. Maybe that helps the Patriots. So back to Diggs again. I think you add Hunter to the wide receiver room as long as you address tackle with the next pick, especially if it's trading up, you're in good shape. It definitely makes a Carter pick a little easier to swing the rest of the draft because you're not as reliant on wide receiver. This is where I'd say it's the biggest adjustment for me. I don't know that I need them going like late day 2, early day 3 receiver and just adding another body to that crowd. I don't know how much that, like at 77, you can get, maybe an edge rusher who's going to make an impact this year, a safety who's going to make an impact this year. Maybe you get a starting guard there, right? Or you just get another wide receiver who's kind of on that level with Polk and Baker and Booty and Bourne, and he just gets lost in the wash. So, like, I'll give you one. I'll hurt myself on this take. I don't know how much sense Kyle Williams makes for the Patriots. A guy like that makes for the Patriots at this point because he's going to be right in that group, right? A guy like Torrey Horton, a guy like Jack Betch, like good players. But don't the Patriots kind of already have guys that answer the questions that those guys answer? So that's where I'm like, all right, Kyle Williams does have some speed, but I don't know. At that point, go later and get like a Tez Johnson
or just give Polk another chance. Like you drafted him in the second round last year. Why draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round this year to just try to make that work? Like just try to make Polk work and use that pick at another position.
Andre Weingarten thinks that Jalen Polk can play X, which would be huge.
Well, it'd be great if if they have Hunter, Diggs, and Douglas all on the roster and healthy. That's the clear top 3, right?
Yeah. And then Jalen Polk is in that mix. Like you're not just
and then
you're doghouse.
No, you're keeping a couple of these other guys to essentially play the role that Kayshawn Booty played at the beginning of the year last year before he was like the only guy that had any chemistry with Drake Maye and had to be on the field. So that's an instant reaction to Stefon Diggs. We'll go real quick here, 10 seconds from each of you. Your thoughts on Christian Ellis coming back because none of us have done a show since that happened, or at least me and Brian have.
Actually.
We hit it earlier today.
All right, so Brian, Christian Ellis, a thought?
I mean, the big thought is just they have so many linebackers. Like same thing we were just talking about in this wide receiver room. Like who's going to be the one that gets cut at some point before the season starts? They have a lot of bodies there, so that'll be interesting how that kind of hierarchy shakes out.
Yeah, Taylor, I'm sorry. I think the Jeffrey Bossa dream is dead. I think my Chris Paul dream is dead. I just don't know how you draft a linebacker at this point with all the depth they have. Look, it's one of the few positions where they're like good to go. Like it's a good thing that they don't need to draft a linebacker as much as we like some of those players. I'm happy.
Taylor got talked off the edge with Bossa when we had Brett Coleman on the pod the other day.
I heard about that. The fun thing about studying the draft is in 4 years, when all these guys are free agents, you already know them and you can run back to the players you like. So maybe, we revisit down the road because Spillane will be in his 30s and yada, yada, yada. First off, for me, I'm happy Christian Ellis got paid. What was a real just mess defensively last year at all levels and all senses. This guy showed up every week. You could argue he was their most consistent player on defense. I think he was one of their best players on defense, which might say more about the rest of the defense than him, but he was. I don't think he'll play as
guys I was excited about to post last year where I was like, yes,
exactly.
He did something good.
So I don't know that he'll play this. He played like 80% of the snaps last year. That role shouldn't be that big this year, but third down role, contribute on special teams. I think he's a guy that's going to help build this culture the coaches want to build just from seeing the way he carried himself last year. I'm glad they got him back. Got a nice chunk of change. Good for him. Rewarding a guy that bought in on a team where very few people did last year. And I think it's him. It's Spillane and Bentley on early downs. I think Bentley is not going to be the 95% usage rate guy. He's probably going to be more in the 40 to 50. You'll have either Ellis or Giddens rotating in with Spillane. Those will be your 2 third down linebackers.
They're all on the roster.
That's 4. That's about right. And remember, Bentley can play on the edge too. So maybe he starts doing some of that.
But Bentley's going to take her. That's my thing. Here's my thing. One, Christian Ellis is now making the same per year in the total contract value of Bentley.
Okay. Well, Bentley signed his deal a few years ago. That's how that works.
Huh?
Bentley signed his deal a few years ago. That's not that.
Right, but like even still, like now they're making, like in the locker room, they are making the same money.
Yeah.
Is Bentley getting more? Are you giving him a raise when he's going to take a reduced role? He's been a starter almost every year of his career. You're going to tell Juwan Bentley you're going to lose 15 or whatever, 10, 15 pounds or whatever, and then you're going to play less than you've ever played in your career. And this guy we just gave a raise to is going to play half. I don't know, man. And Jack Gibbons, I just don't see. I don't see it.
I think, look, depth at that position is important. We saw that last year. I think they keep those 4 guys on the roster. I think they find maybe Bentley does get a little bump. I think they find a way to keep it with those 4 guys. I think those are your 4 linebackers. Like Jelani Tavai's got to be getting cut any day now.
Oh yeah,
I don't see where he belongs on this team. They already moved off a couple more depth linebackers last week who probably weren't even going to make the team, but it's just roster distribution stuff. But linebackers, I hope Bentley makes it because like they'll be fine. I think they'd be fine without Juwan Bentley. This room as it's built right now, dare I say, is a strength. Dare I say is actually a plus spot for the defense. So yeah. I hope they keep it that way. It's not like there's going to be a roster crunch.
And one name to remember, just because I don't think people know he exists, Monty Rice. He's been on the roster since last year, played in Tennessee. He and Jack Gibbons have been on the field together. So I don't think he's, I'm just saying that's at least
Doesn't
somebody
he play more on the edge,
defense.
Though? Isn't he more of an outside linebacker?
So from what I've seen, he was a will. Like, he was off ball. Okay. I can look again.
I thought he was more of a cover guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember I saw somebody wrote that, and I was like, I haven't seen anything about Monty Rice being on the edge, but I'll check right now.
Well, look, he's a guy who can play special teams too. At this point, we're talking about guys who are probably going to carry themselves on special teams.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just like, I think we all know those guys are going to be at the top, but just like, again, I don't think people know that Monty Rice exists.
Yeah. And then there's also
an edge in his defense. I think that's
Marte Mapu go back to linebacker. Like they have a ton of answers there. But this was mainly about Stefon Diggs. We wanted to hop on here, talk Stefon Diggs, kind of give our reactions to that, to the Patriots. If you missed it, I don't know how you're just tuning in now, but if you just are, 3 years.
We got almost 10K watching live.
This is like a post-draft video. This is right up there. So none of us said this about this signing, so I guess I'll say it. Bare minimum, energizes the fan base.
Yep,
definitely.
You're going to see a lot of Diggs jerseys at Gillette. All right, here's how we'll end it. Does Robert Spillane give up number 14?
Oof.
And if he does, like, or if you're Robert Spillane, what are you asking for from Diggs?
I'll give my take on it. I don't think he gives it up. If he wore 14 last year in Tennessee, I would say he would try and get it from Spillane. But he wore number 1 last year, so he's moved around. He's not sold on it. Number 2 is available. I think he would be okay with number 2, single-digit number.
I thought, didn't Harold Landry take 2?
No, Harold Landry.
Yeah, Landry.
Oh, you're right. I was thinking it was KJ Osborne. So, okay.
Or no, did Landry take 7?
Were you going down the
Landry took 2.
Polk's number?
Landry's 2. Every single digit is taken.
Oh, okay. So that changes things.
Does he take Polk's number? And if you're Polk, what are you asking for?
You can't give up 1 if you're Polk because that just further proves that you're just long for making the team.
Imagine Jalen Polk out there in training camp in like 86.
Looks like looking like
Diggs
K1
out
Baker
there at any point wearing 86.
No, Diggs is going to get his number.
Remember when we used to be a proper league and wide receivers wore numbers in the 80s?
I didn't mind wide receivers in the teens. That had a little swagger to it. The single digits is too much.
What about 12? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's no, Mike, come on. Are you serious? That's reserved for Travis Hunter. What are you talking about?
True that. Okay.
So
here's an ugly one, but 16.
No. You got to save that for when Jacoby Myers comes back.
True.
No, I think he's going to get 1. I think he's going to get 1 from Polk.
Do you really?
Yeah. And that'd be a good way for Polk kind of show he's ready to like buy in and like,
that's
you know what? It's this guy's room. He can have number 1. I'm ready to learn from him. He's number 1.
What about 18?
No, that's still Slater's number.
They're gonna give it up though. They give them all up.
I know, but I think he's getting 1 or 14. One of those guys is going to change. We'll see. You might have to put a poll up, Mike, on Twitter.
81. Oh, that's Hooper.
Hooper.
81 is Hooper.
They don't have many. There's not many.
80?
I'm going through the roster. There's not many options. Someone's going to have
No.
to switch around.
And he wore 1 in college. He wore 1 in college. He wore 14 in Minnesota. He wore 14 in Buffalo. He wore 1 last year. So that's it. Who has
Where did
5? 4 plus
Peppers.
1 plus 4 is 5.
Peppers.
Maybe
Someone's going to
if
have
Peppers
to.
doesn't make the team.
Someone's going to have to wear 16. That's the
Maybe
open
Diggs will
one.
wear 12.
I think Polk
Was
wears
Taylor
16.
not listening to us? Come on.
That's for
Well,
Travis Hunter.
We already did that.
Yeah.
Unless-
My bad.
So Spillane, there's a
16.
picture of Spillane in Tennessee in 42. So 42 is open. So he could switch to 42, and then
I think-
14 would be open.
How
I
do
think
you,
Polk goes to 16 and Diggs gets 1. That's my prediction.
if you're Robert Spillane, it's very difficult to be the, the walk-on, whatever, undrafted story, that whole thing. You finally get your payday. You switch to a cool 14. And then 3 weeks later, they say, well, actually, we signed Stefon Diggs, so go back to the
But what if-
crappy 40
But
numbers.
I don't think it would be from the. It's probably not coming from the team. It's probably
But
like
also, what if
Stefon
Diggs-
Diggs.
That's
right?
also true.
what if Diggs
Fair.
wants 1? Maybe Diggs doesn't want 14. Maybe Diggs wants 1. Here's a good one. I don't think this is taken.
Josh
11.
Dobbs? I just looked it up. Or
Josh
I was
Dobbs.
just
All
on
right,
the
Josh
roster.
Dobbs will end up in the backup quarterback 19. Joe Milton's
wear
going to go back
16.
to whatever. Yeah, he can wear 16.
Good point. Give Josh Dobbs respectfully. Give Josh Dobbs 16.
Yeah, that's being a real leader there. All right, we could do like an hour number talk. So we'll wrap it up there. Mike,
Taylor was
Taylor,
enjoying that.
Taylor, Mike, what do you guys have coming tomorrow?
Go ahead, Taylor.
Tomorrow we have Damian Parson on from Draft Network, from Bleacher Report. He does
Great
really
guest.
great stuff. We're going to be talking skill players on offense. So that's going to be a blast. So watch out for it. And I'm going to try to have a Stefon Diggs film breakdown out ideally by tomorrow. Worst case
Taylor
scenario,
ain't
it'll be early
sleeping.
on Thursday.
Taylor ain't sleeping.
Hell no. Sleeps for the week.
Will that be for the subscribers?
Yes, that'll be for our members. We may do it for free. We're still trying to figure it out, but
Okay.
it's we'll find some way to get some kind of treat out there for the free people, but also something for the members.
Well, if people aren't subscribed, I'll throw the I don't know where the thing is, but here we go. If people want to subscribe to get Taylor's Stefon Diggs breakdown, here is a quick look at what you can get, how you can do it. So there's that. Me and Brian will be back tomorrow as well. Live
Thursday.
mock Thursday. Today's not Wednesday. I've been doing that all day. We'll be back Thursday. Live mock draft 3.0. Obviously, some adjustments for the Stefon Diggs signing, so we'll have some fun with that. And all of us have written content up, or I don't know if you've written anything yet, Taylor, but Taylor and Mike, you can find on clnsmedia.com, Mike on sinow.com, Brian on patspulpit.com. You can find my stuff at 985thesportshub.com. So this was fun. We haven't really had like exciting breaking news in a while. This was cool. We used to do this back in the Barth and Lazar days on Patriots Beat all the time, the emergency podcast. We used to have a siren. I don't know what happened to it. It didn't sound good at all, but it would have been fun. It was like an air raid siren I'd play at the beginning. It was terrible. So hopefully, I don't know what it would be, but maybe we'll get some more, but we'll all talk to you down the road this week. Thanks so much to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.